Welcome back. Welcome back to the Everybody Deserves an F-35 stream. My name's Ronnie. I'll be your host. It's Monday. I want to say today's the 18th. It's good to see you. We got a lot to talk about because on the 17th, the United States lost an F-35B. Hit the like button. Here we go. Drop a comment in the chat. Let's talk. What's going on? All right, let's check in. Where are you chiming in from, guys? You look a lot better with hair on your face. Thanks. Thanks very much. It's good to see you. Maryland, welcome in. Kentucky, Northern Ireland, how are you? Happy birthday, not my birthday. Welcome in from Spain, Phoenix, Arizona. Timbuktu. I hate that place. Isn't Timbuktu like an actual place? It didn't. Anyway, whatever. Detroit, welcome in. Portland, Oregon. Oregon Oblast. Guys, listen. I think we should all just head to South Carolina, rent a plane, and find ourselves our very own F-35. Yesterday, the 17th of September, Sunday, the United States Marine Corps lost an F-35B. I'm sure you guys are all tracking this. There isn't an update. Sort of. You know, we might talk about a potential update to it, but I really just want to summarize it for everybody that's not tracking what's going on here. And this is really just going to be me trying to summarize it because I've been following it since it started. Unnamed military officials. It's going to take me a second to wrap my head all the way around it. Unnamed military officials told reporters that a quote-unquote mishap occurred somewhere north of Charleston, South Carolina. Now, this mishap ultimately led to a pilot ejecting from his F-35 Bravo, F-35B, that's the Marine Corps F-35. It's the VTOL, vertical takeoff and landing capable. Approximate cost is $115.5 million, according to Google. A mishap led to that pilot ejecting. That mishap also led to his wingman safely landing. The pilot has since been recovered. Here's where things start to get weird. Prior to ejecting from that aircraft, the pilot engaged the autopilot. So for a while, at least, this F-35, $115.5 million aircraft, was just flying without its pilot. Now, to make matters a little bit worse, Joint Base Charleston, it's an air base, you know, in the Charleston area, is attempting, or at least was attempting, to crowdfund the identification of where exactly the plane was. The United States military didn't, at least as of the time of starting this, at least what is reported, know where it was. Now, I've got a little bit of an update for you guys on this, and it's more speculation than anything. This is one of the few times that we're going to speculate because this absolutely fascinates me. It fascinates me that I can find my iPhone to a standard deviation of about a meter, but a $115.5 million aircraft, but it is not possible to find. Whether that's because of its stealth technology and we weren't able to follow it, but we do know its transponder was turned off. I want to show you guys flight radar. It's something interesting that I found. Check this out. If you're not familiar with flight radar allows you to track, flights and aircraft all over the place. The last known location for this F-35 was somewhere to the north of Charleston, here. Lake Moultrie and Lake Marion. Well, for the last couple of hours, there have been civil patrol aircraft and this aircraft, a United States Navy UC-12M, conducting heavy search patterns in this one spot near Stuckey. Again, a little bit of speculation because no official announcement has come out yet. I'm wondering if this might be the area where the F-35 eventually went down. I normally like to talk about things that I have a little bit more concrete proof of. and nothing official has come out on this, but I have been glued to this flight radar screen for the last couple hours. The F-35 got stuck in Stucky. Now, the reason that this is kind of abnormal is this same call sign, Fox 480, had been conducting kind of your standard, very wide-angle search patterns all along this area up until recently. Only very recently did we start to see this very tight search pattern by both, again, this Navy airframe along with 3, at least, Civil Air Patrol, smaller aircraft. I want to say a couple of them might still be down here. But along with a law enforcement chopper as well. They have all been really focused heavily on this area. I wouldn't be surprised if we get some kind of a notification that the F-35 has been found in this area. I just wanted to provide you guys a little bit of a summary of that, because it's one of those things that you absolutely don't have on your bingo card. And then when it happens, it almost sounds too unbelievable to be true that they would reach out to the public and say, effectively, we lost our F-35. Could you please let us know if you see it, and tell it dinner is, on the table because it needs to come home. A little bit ridiculous. I want to jump straight into the footage, though, outside of that. It's good to see you. Welcome back. Doug, thank you for the 12 months as a member. Chad, thank you for the $5. Hey, Ronnie, your regular New Zealand viewer here. Welcome in, man. And thanks for being here. Happy birthday, Ronnie. DJ, not my birthday. We're going to actually start off our footage tonight. Let's talk about something we actually have footage of. We're going to start off our footage tonight over on the Gaza Strip. At the border, one of the borders. There are a few borders on the West Bank with Israel, but one of those blew up recently. Let's talk through this. What you're about to see is footage of Palestinians lined up behind this wall here, attempting to either breach the wall with an IED or plant an IED of some kind, but it doesn't really go their way. We're going to watch multiple angles of this. Wait. I should have given you a discretion advised. I'm sorry, discretion advised for this one. So that's the first angle that we have. Second angle's coming up for you guys here. This is a second view from behind the wall. Once again, discretion advised on this one. And then the last view that I have is actually from an IDF drone, if I'm not mistaken. Pulling that one up for you now. Sorry, was sipping my coffee to help clear my throat out. Yeah, so that was one that I didn't necessarily want to lead off the stream, but I think, Israel, Palestine, Gaza, West Bank, that's something that we do cover every so often. It is, and I'm just going to speak very transparently here, right? I try to do so as often as possible. It is one of those very polarizing conflicts, very politically driven conflict to try and talk about. But when there's footage of it, right? This show is supposed to show you guys footage from around the world, one way or another. And that is the most recent footage that we have coming out of the West Bank. I do want to jump into the Ukraine footage now, though. At least 5 body bags. If I recall correctly, let me check the killing 6 and wounding dozens. So what we're tracking right now is that 6 Palestinians were killed. I've seen reports that indicated that IDF fire, so Israeli Defense Force fire, like small arms, was the initiator of that suicide or S-vest or IED. I've also seen that it was just an inadvertent detonation, that it was some type of accident. Can't confirm one way or another. I want to jump into our our Ukraine footage now. And we're going to be starting in Kherson. So we'll start in Google Earth with some geo coordinates. Tonight's show is going to be somewhat ridden with war footage, to put that lightly. This first one's just going to be a D-30, a Russian D-30 being targeted by Ukrainian counter battery. So we'll zoom pretty quickly through Kherson. We'll see a little bit of footage from Novoprokopivka, some update footage from Novoprokopivka. Some update footage from Novoprokopivka, had to cough there. And we'll eventually make our way over to Novoprokopivka. Novoprokopivka. But this first bit is going to be a Russian D-30 that gets targeted by a Ukrainian artillery, by our Ukrainian artillery in some way. Don't know exactly what hit it, but that footage is coming up for you now. And the only reason I show you guys this footage is this is indicative of the majority of footage that we see coming out of Kherson right now is, attritional artillery battles, if you will, essentially wearing down each other's artillery capability. And the majority of Kherson, all the way up into, Novoprokopivka, is similar. We're going to see some Fab 500 drops from Russia here in just a second, though. Let's bring it up all the way, and we'll head over to Novoprokopivka for a quick update there. Now, on Friday, we talked about an interesting report that said Russian munitions fell, essentially in this courtyard here. Now, the only report that we had about that at the time, which is still to a certain extent accurate, is that it was inadvertent and they were Russian bombs that fell on this side of the river. You have the Dnipro here. Now, that report is driven almost entirely by quote-unquote local sources. Well, we have some follow-up footage for that. And there is no update on, whose bombs they were outside of the original report. I was sitting here wondering when the impact was going to happen, but I didn't play the video. Now I'll play the aftermath footage that we reviewed on Friday immediately after this. For those that might not have been here on Friday, here is ultimately what that led to. Bringing it back up. We're going to shift once again on the map, kind of moving through the southern AO here, headed over towards Beryslav. Where we're going to watch a couple of Russian Fab 500s fall. So let's bring it back out for a second so you can see where that is. So you've got Antonovsky here. We spend a lot of time talking about Antonovsky. Shifting east to Beryslav. Here is that footage. Let's start that over. Nothing that I could find directly on what the target of this strike was. We're going to see a couple strikes like this, both Ukrainian and Russian, in city centers. Big bada boom. That is a big boom. And now we're going to shift once again on the map. We're headed over towards Novoprokopivka. And I'm going to pull up those coordinates quickly on Google Earth, and then we're going to switch over to the campaign map and take a look at the forward line. So this is out to the west of Novo. The video that we're going to watch, which, you know, I'll pull up here in a moment, is going to be one of those War Happens videos. Discretion's advised for it. It's going to be an unmarked Russian casevac, casualty evacuation vehicle, that gets hit by, I want to say, a drone. We're getting two perspectives of it, one from outside the vehicle and one from inside the vehicle. Let's quickly check in on Deep State so we can see the forward line. In this part of the front, there hasn't been any major change since we last talked. The biggest change is going to be up towards Klischiivka, and we'll get there when we get there. So we were last here on 9:15, if I recall. Really just minor changes that Deep State is tracking to the southwest. And again, this video that we're about to watch is going to take place out here. Let's bring it up. Here comes the video. Once again, discretion's advised on this one. It's about 2 minutes.
А что, у тебя и жопа, что дырявая? Гони, гони, руки нету, гони. Гони, 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 как можешь, гони, блядь. У меня руки нету.
That's about the only part of that audio that I can play, given the Beastie Boys soundtrack that's been added to it. They still haven't found that F-35. I suspect that they might have narrowed the search pretty heavily. We were taking a look at some interesting flight patterns on flight radar just a few moments ago. I still got those pulled up. All right, let's bring it up. Now, if they have found it, and that's been within the last 30 to 45 minutes or so, that's something that I might not be tracking. So feel free to let me know, guys. We're going to shift on the map. Actually, we're not shifting far. So we're going to watch some more FPV drone footage. We're going to see quite a bit of FPV drone footage. This one's interesting because what you're going to see here is a Ukrainian drone effectively harassing a Russian with an AK-12, and I only say with an AK-12 because we get a very clear view of that on the drone's final approach. But I guess that's really the best way to describe it. It's harassing him for a little bit, flying around him, and eventually flies in. Same front on that Novoprokopivka approach. All right, let's bring it back up. So, this next one, sorry, I was reading. This next one's actually going to be a Ukrainian vehicle. Now, we're going to pull this up on video. We'll watch it on video first, and then I'll show you exactly where this takes place with the geo coordinates. But it's a Ukrainian vehicle. That vehicle is here, moving south beyond Robotyn, Robotyn, Robotny. It's moving south, but ends up getting hit by something. This is reportedly a Ukrainian vehicle. And just like with always, for those that I have it available, I have lat and long coordinates in the stream description for you. Now let's bring it up, and I'll show you exactly where that takes place in Google Earth. The relevance to stuff like this, why do I care? Is because it corresponds directly with the changes that we see happening in the campaign map. So you have Robotyn, Robotny. One of those has to be close. So I'm just going to say all of them from now on. And that strike took place as the vehicle was moving to the south towards the bottom of your screen here. Now, exactly what hit it, I'm not entirely certain. But that's where it takes place. Now, this next one is another one of those not safe for work. I don't have a geolocation for this. But this is reportedly along that same Tokmak Novo-Robotyn axis and is a medic from the 47th Brigade treating the wounded. Discretion's advised on this one. Headphone warning.
Боком до мене, покажи ручку. Сюди?
Я просто вона
Ні.
просто пройдись вперед, не пикав, включай. Сейчас я все сделаю. Заклеиваю. Заклеиваю, сейчас будет полегче. Все хорошо, сейчас.
All right, coming up. Now, along that same front, now I told you previously that I'm kind of beginning to track these almost as two separate directions, and let's talk about it. So along that same front, I'm really starting to track these from a video perspective as almost two different sub-axes. One towards Verbova in the effort for Ukraine to widen their salient, and another, on the Novo kind of more direct south approach. This next video is going to come from Verbova, just to the south of Verbova, and I have coordinates for it. If I recall, it's going to come along this tree line here. Now let's pull up the coordinates on Google Earth. This is going to be a wild video, if it's the one that I'm thinking of. It's going to be a Russian mechanized assault. Yep, I was correct. So it's going to be a Russian mechanized assault moving along this tree line here. Now, once again, what it's really showing you beyond just a Russian armored vehicle really lighting up this tree line is it's going to show you the furthest advance of the Ukrainians so far. Here comes that video. Again, this one's a wild one. Coming up now. Now, right now, that armored vehicle is moving with, as a troop transport, it's got troops in the back, and it's eventually going to drop them off. It'll turn around and unass itself. So it just dropped off its dismounts. You'll see them starting to move into the tree line here momentarily. They're here. The vehicle's turning. And again, it's going to unass while they take cover in this, kind of micro terrain here, this pseudo trench. I guess it's not really a tree line anymore. Kind of just a bunch of sticks at this point. All right, let's bring it up. Now that's what I had from Verbova. Now, in that video, I might want to. No, I mean, I think it's pretty apparent at this point. I'll pull up the campaign map so we can see that. Relative to fortifications here, the again quote unquote Surovikin line. That's taking place beyond it, out here. When we see Russian footage engaging, Ukrainian positions. Ukrainian footage engaging Russian positions. It's a great indicator of, furthest length of advance. How far forward have they made it? It doesn't necessarily indicate control, although it looks, based on this. Well, I think that assault was along here. So the Ukrainian control area being the blue, just to continue to beat this red horse. There isn't a wall of dudes standing here. These are just control areas. Lucky Charms, thank you for the 5. Now I want to move on the map to Urozhain. And somewhere along the Urozhain front, this one we're not going to watch all of because it's a 19-minute long video. But I gave you a link to it. We're going to watch the tail end of it. Let me tell you what happens in it. It's 19 minutes long. Ukrainians storm a Russian trench. Now, they end up in some form of a stalemate. Effectively, we can't really make any progress. They decide to withdraw, but they have to withdraw under artillery. We're going to watch the latter portion of that now. We do have a shorter version of this on the website. The longer version is on our Twitter right now. Should be making its way over to the website soon. Video's coming up for you now. This is on our Twitter. X. So we'll get to about here. if it wants to play. Hamster is running on its wheel. Stand by. I think we're playing. Here we go. Now, these troops that you're seeing right now, these are Ukrainians. And I do have a geolocation for this, so we can pull up an exact location. Still engaging. Now you already see one withdrawing. You're going to start to see the rest of them move as well, and in comes the artillery. TV News is just now reporting a debris field has been located for the F-35. I wonder if that is near the area where we were looking at on flight radar earlier. Ukrainians attempting to fire over the trench. Artillery still falling. Lucky Charms, thank you for the 2. Just curiosity, how do you guys find these videos? Just about everywhere. The quickest and fastest way to find them, to get the closest to the primary source is going to be Telegram. But we'll also be tagged in them. You guys tag us in stuff that we might have missed. We're still a small team. We do have a total of 5 writers rather than 2. So we have expanded the team quite a bit. We are scaling and growing. So when you guys tag us on things, myself, the Funker Actual account, Josh, Will, Cam, Cole, that's one way that we find these videos. But another way is just being a part of having it ingrained in us to be searching for them in the telegrams of the world, sometimes the primary sources. We do receive footage directly from folks around the world. That has somewhat persisted since the earliest days of Funker. How do you get access to Telegram? You just download Telegram. So now you see the Ukrainians have, begun to withdraw from that position. And that's effectively the end of the video. What we end up seeing here is the drone flying away. Let's bring it back. I'll give you guys a link in the chat for that. If you want to watch the full 19 minutes, there's the link in the live chat. For those that are watching on the VOD, that's going to be available in the stream description. I would say probably close to about 90% of the videos that we watch here on the show are listed in the stream description. The only time they're not is if, for whatever reason, YouTube has a 5,000 character limit. And if for whatever reason I have to truncate that list whatsoever, I typically start at the bottom, which is going to be our general Ukraine section. And under most circumstances, I pull the general Ukraine section directly from our website, funker530.com. Now, we're going to move on the map here kind of once again. It's not really a kind of. We're moving into Donetsk. I'll give you guys some coordinates for this one, because we're going to see a Ukrainian strike into Donetsk. Here, on this building. Now, this building was reported to be a DPR, or Donetsk People's Republic administration building of some kind. I don't know exactly what it was hit with, but it was struck. There's a little bit of aftermath, mostly just smoke, though.
Прямо сейчас. Жесть, что творится. Донецк, центр. Охренеть, прилет.
Vox Virtus, thank you for the 5.
Прямо сейчас. Жесть, что творится. Донецк, центр.
All right, let's bring it up. We're going to stay, generally speaking, in Donetsk, though. We're going to shift a little bit to the north. Give you Google Earth for this one. We're going to see a HIMARS strike. Changing those coordinates here. On two 120 millimeter 2S9s. So this is GMLRS. From HIMARS. Coming up now. Keeping the sound off there. Why has there not been development of drone laser target designation? Not knowing a ton about the devices, are they super heavy? Seems like a good way to get around Elon's service interruptions. JD, thank you for the $10. There's a lot of misinformation, or there's a general lack of information on what exactly happened with Starlink. I would say that it's important to note that Starlink isn't necessary for the movement of all drones, right? So just about every one of your FPV drones isn't going to require Starlink. For those boat drones that, necessitate, dozens of kilometers worth of range, you are going to need some kind of networked connection for those. But kind of regardless of what happened with the Starlink connection, at this point, with the basis of Elon, quote unquote, shutting down Starlink, at this point, Crimea has been struck multiple times, so it's kind of a non-starter as it is, right? I think what's unclear to a lot of people right now is the discussion about Elon, possibly shutting down Starlink, which there's also an alternative discussion that really never happened because it was never in that area in the first place. But a lot of people have the misunderstanding that is something recent, in a relative sense, when in fact this would have been, quite some time ago. And since that time, Ukraine has struck into Crimea using both boat drones, so unmanned surface vehicles or USVs, as well as missiles. Right, see the Rostov and the Minsk that were just taken out of a dry dock. There is a little bit of an update on the Rostov, which is the sub, and I don't think it's gonna. I mean, it still technically does sub things like sink, but it's got a lot of holes in it right now. I could show you guys that update here in just a couple minutes. We're gonna move to Svitlodarsk. I'm going to pull that up. Now, that's still technically in Donetsk for you. You are. And if I'm not mistaken, we're going right here. So right in this area. This is going to be a Ukrainian strike using JDAM-ER. So the Joint Directed Attack Munition extended range, which is really just a set of fins and a guidance system that you put on a dumb bomb, which makes it, a little bit smarter of a bomb. It's not unlike the UMPK, which is the Russian kit that goes on the FAB munitions, FAB munitions. But that video is coming up for you now. Now, this was reported to be a, quote, headquarters building. Here it is. Double tap there, back to back. Submarine with holes, not a good idea. Typically suboptimal. Yes, I would agree with that. Matter of fact, let's take a pause here. We'll head over to the Twitter account and we'll pull up those photos of the Rostov. Talk amongst yourselves. Stand by. I got to scroll through all of my F-35 flight radar tweets. There it is. All right, we're just going to go full screen. So there's two photos that I'm tracking, which is the best update that we have. So if I understand the strike correctly, it impacted near the front of the sub, which is going to be up here. And then probably as, result of the way Storm Shadow and Scalp work is, there's, forgive the terminology that I use here, there is a penetrator and then kind of an internal payload that goes off, right? So this potentially being a blowout, I would guess, from that. But there's at least two holes here. Here's another view of that. And I want to say this would be the front of the sub. All right, let's bring it back up. And we looked at the footage of the Minsk, the Russian landing ship, which, also from a ship perspective looked pretty suboptimal. Going back to that JDAM strike that we just saw in Svitlodarsk, here is the aftermath footage of that. Let's do this one.
О, вид снаружи, блядь. Подразъебало, нахуй. Как нас там, блядь, не засыпало. Фух. Пошли пешком. Машинки подразъебало, блядь.
All right. We're going to move up towards Bakhmut, where, in my opinion, the most significant change on the forward line has taken place. So Friday, we talked about Andriivka. Excuse me, I almost said Avdiivka, which is here. But Andriivka. Ukrainians on Friday announced the, quote, liberation of Andriivka. You can go back and take a look at that here. Well, between Friday and now, they also announced the liberation of Klischiivka. Just to give you some perspective on how that relates to Bakhmut. We've been following Ukraine's counteroffensive on the southern flank of Bakhmut for quite a while. But we've got some footage from first Andriivka and then from Klischiivka. I would consider the majority of this section that we're going to be covering here to be not safe for work. Discretion advised here. This first one is going to be Russians moving in the open, presumably, and I don't have, it's either Klischiivka or Andriivka. I just don't have a geolocation for it. Wrong button. I don't even know why I pushed a button there. Nobody said I was good at this. It's Russians that move out into the open and then get targeted by Ukrainian small arms. Discretion advised. Video's coming up now. Headphone warning. It's just music. Keeping that off. Once again, it's not over. Discretion advised. War happens in this video. And let's bring it up. I do have geo coordinates for this one. Let's pull those up. This is once again going to be Andriivka. Andriivka does not look like this anymore, by the way. You know, I just like that noted. You know, it's pretty gone at this point. But this is where it takes place, and what we're going to see here is the 3rd Assault Brigade. I'm not sure why this isn't working, but I would really enjoy for this to orient north. Thank you. We're going to see the 3rd Assault Brigade attempting to take prisoners of war. This is one of the videos referenced in the title. As they're taking prisoners of war, Russian artillery falls literally on top of the prisoners of war. Video's coming up for you guys now. Who's who? The dudes surrendering are Russian. The dudes searching them are Ukrainian. You can see a faint blue tape on a few of these guys. All right. Let's bring it up. Now, in Klischiivka, we're shifting up to the north here. We're going to see footage. If I understand correctly, after Ukraine announced the capture, it could be, before. But what you're going to see right in here is actually TOS-1A, so thermobaric strikes from Russia. They're a little far away to see. I wanted to point out exactly where you were going to see those. There they are. Heat, Beat, Repeat, Metalworks. Thank you very much for the 20. Hello from the UK. Keep doing what you do. We really appreciate it. Thank you very much for being here. And thank you very much for the 20. TOS short range, in a relative sense, yeah. Still a couple kilometers worth of range on it. It's not really considered an indirect fire weapon or indirect fire system. The exact range on it, I am drawing a blank on. But you could use Odin Weg to look that up. All right, let's jump into east of Klischiivka. Let's head back to Google Earth. So Russians attempted to mount some form of like a counteroffensive to the east of Klischiivka here. But it was unsuccessful. How much movement do you think occurs at nighttime? I would say more than is given credit. We've seen a few videos here and there of Ukrainians and Russians using thermals and night vision. All right. Let's bring it up. Got one more video coming from Klischiivka. This one is from the thumbnail. This is thermal drone footage in and around Klischiivka. It's kind of a compilation of sorts. It's a Ukrainian perspective. So recorded by Ukrainians. All right, coming up. Now we're going to move up into Kharkiv. I'm going to butcher this. To Krokmalny, excuse me, Krokmalny. Let's just use Google Earth and the coordinates. Ugh. Here we go. Zoom Google Earth. Krokmalny. Where'd it go? Right here. This place. We're going to see Russian perspective footage of Russia's first tank army hitting a Ukrainian position. It's going to come in the form of like an official Ministry of Defense release. So there's an interview that's going on at the time. I don't have a translated version of this, but there is combat footage kind of, throughout the video.
Организовала разведгруппа, провела налет, все, подготовку и налет на опорный пункт противника. Мы захватили как раз центральный опорный пункт на нашем направлении из трех. То есть там южнее где-то на 700 метров и севернее аналогично 700 метров от того, который мы захватили. В процессе налета уничтожили 6 человек до 6. 4 в самом опорном пункте и 2 человека в процессе. Пускали коптеры, проводили воздушную разведку, также производили сбросы на эти позиции, на наблюдателей. Проводили разведку маршрутов, вариантов возможных. Все просчитывали варианты возможного движения. Вот, выбрали самый наглый, дерзкий маршрут по открытому месту, по открытому участку местности. Потом непосредственно перед самой задачей выдвинулись ночью на исходную точку. И с этой исходной точки выдвигались уже непосредственно к опорному пункту противника. Перед подготовкой саперами тропы. Внезапность, и они не ожидали, что мы пойдем именно здесь, на открытом участке. Обычно все подобные действия, да, там, они проводятся через лесополки, скрытно и так далее, ночью, в сумерках и так далее. Мы пошли днем и застали их врасплох. Цель налета была уничтожение живой силы противника, захват пленного, вооружение, средств связи и так далее, документов.
Как эта ситуация вот влияет на самого противника?
Ну, моральный дух падает, естественно, да, они расслабились на том направлении, они думали, что мы также стоим, ничего не делаем, никаких вылазок не производим, не заходим к ним в тыл. Вот, потому что опорный пункт был рассчитан на, ну, то есть там несколько ячеек, да, и...
All right, I want to go back and kind of cover something we talked about when we first started the stream. We're about to jump into our general Ukraine section, and that's going to be this is a good spot to start this. Let's head back to flight radar because we talked earlier about the F-35, the F-35B that was, kind of floating around on its own for, a few hours, sometime at least. Now, that F-35, officials have effectively announced that it has been found. The official announcement that it was found somewhere in Williamsburg, the county of Williamsburg, and somebody correct me in the chat if I have that off. They found a debris field, if you will. Now, we were earlier, and I'm wondering if this is going to be the same general place, talking about a place known as Stucky. So here, we were watching some flight patterns here in Stucky at the very beginning of the stream, and you can go back and take a look at that, where a Navy plane, multiple Civil Air Patrol planes were conducting some pretty tight turns right here. Now, this announcement has been since we've been live, so I haven't had a whole lot of time to dive into it or look into it, if you will, but I would assume that, based on those really tight, not this plane, I need to not be looking at that, based on those really tight search patterns that, we're probably looking somewhere in this area. But that is just to the immediate northeast of the last known location, which was somewhere near Lake Moultrie and Lake Marion. Joint Base Charleston, when they put out their official request for support, they said very specifically the search area is to the north of Lake Moultrie and Lake Marion. I'm going to bring that all the way out so you guys can see generally where that is. But another notable is that there's no longer any aircraft over top of Stucky. All right, let's bring it up. But I continue to see, first of all, Twitter told me it was in Cuba, so that doesn't appear to be the case. Let's move into our general Ukraine section. Now, I call it general Ukraine section, and I say this every stream because I don't have a great geolocation for it. In some cases, the best I can do is an oblast. And for some of these, I do have an oblast. The first of these is going to be a T-72 that gets hit by a drone, and it makes a really big boom. No better way to describe this one, really. What's that flight time on that turret? Let's count that. That's about an 8-second flight time on that turret. The footage slowed down. Oh, that's fair. Yeah, that is. Well, I don't think the original was. All right, let's start it with right here. No, this isn't slowed down. This is real time. That's real time. So it's between 7 and 8 seconds. All right, let's bring it back up. This one's going to be, it was reported to be near Urozhain. Now, I can't validate that, so I put it in the general section. It was a late edition. It did still make its way into the stream description. It's about a 4-minute watch. What you're going to see here are 4 Ukrainian MAT-Vs that are either moving to assault a position, moving in a convoy. They end up bunching up at one point and just start getting absolutely hammered. Video's coming up now. Discretion's advised on this one. That one likely hit a mine. Now, if you pay close enough attention, you can see small arms here. You know, whether that be from the truck-mounted guns or the dismounts. It's also important to note that these MAT-Vs kind of did their job. You see dismounts getting out of the vehicle that hit a mine. You have to look really closely, but there's a dismount actually right here. That was not a mine. That's, you know, artillery. No blue tape on the trucks. They're MAT-Vs. Once again, you're seeing dismounts here as they get out and withdraw. What's hitting them? Probably a combination of rocket-propelled grenades and artillery and mines. It's also important to note, I think, that, you know, from our screen here, we just see, you know, Ukrainians moving, but there's a high likelihood that they are, you know, currently moving under small arms. All right, let's bring it up. Again, I don't have. I'm sure somebody could geolocate that footage, but I don't have a great geolocation for it. The original report was that it was from Eurozhane or somewhere near Eurozhane. That could be prior to Ukraine capturing it. It could be something a little bit more recently to the east of Eurozhane. To the west of Eurozhane is like a river. I don't see a river anywhere near there. So I'd be willing to bet it was maybe northeast. Really difficult to say if that is the actual location of that. The next one that we have is going to be HIMARS strike on a Russian surface-to-air missile. Now, this is a Tor M2, and that is alternative warhead. So the tungsten steel balls, if you will. But this Tor M2 is going to kind of just shake that off and start driving away. Now, it's probably still, you know, pretty effed up at the moment. It's probably got holes all through it. I don't know how far it goes, how far it gets. But that is HIMARS. That is a Tor M2. Tungsten rain, Prince would approve. So I read tungsten. The first time I read your comment there, I read it in purple rain in my head. And now I don't know that. Now I don't know that I can see alternative warhead and not think tungsten rain. I don't. Thanks for that. This one might be tough to watch. So discretion advised here. We're going to see a helmet camera footage. This is reported to be near Klischiivka. Once again, kind of one of those instances where I haven't seen the community geolocate this, so I have nothing to cross-reference. That's the original report. But what this is reported to be Ukrainians as, you know, Russian artillery is impacting all around them. Discretion's advised on this one.
Держись. Держись, давай. Давай, давай пулемет, отстрелись. Они сейчас отстрелись. Какой пулемет? Ой, родной. Раз, два, взяли. Раз, два, взяли.
Капа! Капа!
Капа!
Что? Капа 200.
Капа. Качан.
All right, let's bring that back up. And this one is actually going to be 2S4 Tealpan footage. Now, the Tealpan is huge. It's big. This is the artillery system she told you not to worry about. It's 240 millimeters. And each one of these, Ukraine has taken a couple of these out, and each time they do that, it's a big deal, because this is, if I'm not mistaken, and you know, please feel free to correct me, if I'm not mistaken, this is one of the biggest, you know, artillery guns, self-propelled artillery guns that is around right now. But what you're going to see here is Russian Ministry of Defense released footage of the Tealpan in action. Tealpan. I'm going to keep the sound off on it, though. I actually want to say it's classified as a mortar system rather than an artillery piece. The nuances there between mortar and artillery, I'm not the best with. It's a big-ass gun. That's a very technical way of describing it. It's a big ass f***ing gun. So that's what it is. All right, let's bring it back. Now I want to take you guys back to the website for a second. So I left kind of this last portion open, if you will, for us to kind of walk through the website for a minute. I've got some more video for us to watch, but I want to show you guys around to some things that you might not be aware of. If you ever get interested in our team and want to learn a little bit more about our team, just head to the website, go on down to our team here. You can read a little bit about each of our team members, kind of what their roles are. We've got a few team members to add to this. There's other things that you can find in here. But one of the things that I really like to do is go to the trending section, because when you go to the trending section, that's going to show you, based on the time period that you want, whether 30 days, 7 days, or even all time. That might take a few seconds. Oh, wow, that's very fast. Or even all time, the most watched videos on both the app and the website. Now, each time we do the stream, I typically jump into the trending for the last 7 days, and you'll recognize a lot of this stuff because a lot of it is stuff that we've covered here on the show. Right? We still do cover some things on this show that don't make their way to the website, and the best example of that is going to be, you know, some FPV drone strikes. At this point, we've documented and archived the capability. It's something that's just so prevalent. There is enough FPV drones hitting various vehicles that documenting and archiving that being used as a prevalent capability is something we've already done. Taking a pause because I need to check in on the support, and then we're actually just getting ready to close out here. We're a little bit early on the stream and kind of move through it. Torek, thank you for the $2. 93rd Mechanized. I missed that when you initially sent it over. But Torek says that he was embedded with them. I do know that Torek did go to Ukraine. He spent some time in Ukraine. Thank you very much for the $2, buddy. Demo, thank you for the 1 month. Thanks for scratching that footage fetish itch. You're welcome. Lucky Charms, thank you for the $2. One more question. How do you find the coordinates for these? So, very simple answer to that question. Geoconfirmed. Geoconfirmed is something that I've talked about quite a bit. What I typically do is I come up with my list of footage that I want to talk about, and then I go and cross-reference with Geoconfirmed. Geoconfirmed has their own map. All you got to do is Google Geoconfirmed. And, you know, a lot of times, that's why there's going to be, as we were going through Klischiivka tonight, for example, some of them had, you know, geoconfirmations, some of them didn't. They are 100% volunteer driven, community driven. So as the community identifies geo coordinates for each of the individual videos, Geoconfirmed gets tagged and then updates their map with it. And I think that's really awesome work because it helps provide a whole lot of context. And I'm a big fan of theirs. So as you guys, you know, begin to follow Geoconfirmed and comment on some of their stuff, please let them know we sent you. You know, that's really awesome work, especially for someone that's just doing a team that's just doing our very best to understand the footage that's coming off the ground. Excuse me, Murat, thank you very much for the 20. I'm addicted to your stream. Well, thank you for being here. I appreciate that very much, and thank you for the 20. IK, thank you for the 14 months. I missed a couple more here. Heat Beat Repeat. I did say thank you for the 20 already, but thank you again. Torek, thank you for the $2 prior to that. Jonathan, thank you for the $2. F-35 debris field has been found. It has. I got one more video for you. Our very own Mortarman posted this one. Will is a Chuck. Tube stroker, whatever you want to call him. We're going to see in video form what complacency looks like when handling a cylindrical object. And it's terrifying. But thank you guys very much for being here. We're ending a little bit early tonight. It's about 14 minutes early. But all I can say is thank you. We'll be back to see you with more footage, the footage that we find out in the wild between now and Friday night, 6 o'clock Eastern Standard right here. Again, complacency kills. And be careful out there. Good night, and stay informed.
Fire on you, gunners! Get those fucking rounds, Tony! Don't fucking get that! Back you! Going one! Hang it! Fire! It's on you, gunners! Get those fucking rounds, Tony! Don't fucking get that!
Suboptimal. Good night.